Hello everyone! Welcome to the Eternal City. Let's take another historical walk through the Roman ancient sites. Among dozens of ancient temples in Rome, the Temple of Venus and Roma, between the edge of the Roman Forum and Colosseum, was the largest. Its remains we can see right now. But today I'm going to show you the best preserved ancient temples in Rome, above all, the marvelous Pantheon. Let's go! The best preserved ancient building in Rome dates back to the 2nd century AD, but the original structure had been erected almost 200 years earlier, around 27 BC, during the reign of Augustus, by his son-in-law, general and statesman Marcus Agrippa. It was, however, destroyed during the fire in 80 AD. Then rebuilt by Domitian, but again burned down, stricken by the lightning in 110 AD. The current structure was built by the Emperor Hadrian between 118 and 125 AD. In one of my previous episodes I showed you the Macuteo obelisk, which stands in front of the entrance to the Pantheon. You can find the link in the description. Let's now learn more about the wonderful structure which is located in the focal point of the Piazza della Rotonda. We don't know the exact date of the Pantheon's completion. The mystery is quite hard to resolve, as Hadrian, instead of inscribing the temple anew, chose to preserve the original inscription of Marcus Agrippa. Marcus Agrippa, Luci filius consul tertium fecit, which is translated, Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, in his third consulate, made it.
The original purpose of the Pantheon is actually unknown. Although the name means all gods or all worship, it's quite improbable that it was dedicated to many pagan gods. As we know from the history, the pagan gods or Roman ancient gods didn't like to be put inside one temple. They usually had one temple each.
Probably the Pantheon was dedicated to worship of emperors yet to be deified, and most likely it was kind of a temple monument of the Julian dynasty, filled with statues of gods revered by this particular family, hence the name. Angelic and not human design, as Michelangelo once described the Pantheon. We can distinguish two main architectural elements, a portico and a rotunda. The entrance porch has 16 granite monolithic columns, 8 on the front row and 2 rows of 4 behind. The columns are little over 14 meters high. Their shafts measure 12 meters and beautiful Corinthian capitals almost 2.5 meters. The portico should actually be around 4 meters higher to maintain perfect proportions. It's still unknown why the Romans built it that way, but the most plausible theory suggests a lack of material, more specifically a shipwreck, that caused the loss of some of the columns from Egypt. The portico ceiling was once an extraordinary example of Roman engineering, weighing approximately 180 tons. It was made entirely of tubes made of bronze, plates riveted together. However, Pope Urban VIII of the Barberini family had the whole ceiling removed and melted down in order to make Bernini's famous baldacchino in St. Peter's Basilica. Hence the saying, what the barbarians didn't do, The Barberini did. The door measures 7.5 meters in height and almost 4.5 meters in width. Each half of the door weighs more than 8 tons. That's impressive.
It was long believed that the doors are not original, that they are reconstruction from the 15th century. However, in 2007, it was finally confirmed that the doors are in fact original, which means that these are the oldest door in Rome, and it's a rare example of ancient bronze monumental work.
How has the Pantheon survived for so many years in such a great condition? In 609 AD, it was converted to a church. Thus, it escaped the fate of other ancient buildings, which is recycling of the building material. Since the 7th century AD, it's been dedicated to Saint Mary and the Martyrs. Without a doubt, the most astonishing part of the building is its dome, still being the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome. It's a perfect hemisphere, and if you would feed a ball with a diameter of 43 meters inside, it would touch the ceiling, floor and walls. The proportions are perfect, and the way in which ancients constructed such an exquisite form out of concrete is still under debate. Some say they must have used scaffoldings, others claim the entire building was filled with sand from Ostia. Perhaps you've got some other ideas? I can only tell you one thing for sure: the effect is mind-blowing. How did the Romans achieve that? The oculus, which measures 8 meters in diameter, not only serves as a clever and at the same time beautiful source of natural light, but also significantly reduces the dome's weight. Moreover, concrete is thinner at the top of the dome and thicker near the base. Concrete near the oculus is of lighter than normal density. The bottom of the dome is heavier by the use of brickwork built up on top of it as a counterbalance, and the dome is lightened by the use of coffering, 5 rows of 28 panels. The 4 out of 8 niches inside the dome are chapels dedicated to Saint Joseph, the Madonna of Clemency, the Crucifixion and the Annunciation. The final niche opposite the entrance has a church altar, behind which we can see a copy of a 13th century icon of the Madonna. The 3 other spaces serve as tombs. One belongs to the first king of United Italy, Vittorio Emmanuele II, thus the inscription on his tombstone, Padre della Patria, which translates to the Father of the Fatherland. Even today the tomb is guarded by the volunteers as a mark of respect. Vittorio Emmanuele planned to use the Pantheon as a mausoleum for the Italian kings, hence the other tomb belongs to Emmanuel's successor, Umberto I, and his wife, the Queen Margherita. However, these are the only royal tombs in the Pantheon, as in 1946 the monarchy was abolished. The last tomb belongs to one of the greatest artists, Raphael Santi, the master of Renaissance painting. It's said that he was so inspired by the perfect proportions of the Pantheon that he himself requested to be buried here. As aforementioned, the height and diameter of the dome are exactly the same. They measure 43 meters, and although walking inside the rotunda it's invisible with a naked eye, the floor was built with an incline of around 30 centimeters to drain away the rain falling through the oculus. An analysis of the 820 openings in the tympanum indicates that a huge eagle relief, most likely made of bronze, was originally there. Massive eagle with spread wings, inscribed within an oak leaf crown, corona civica, with fillets that fluttered hither and thither to the corners of the tympanum. We don't know whether the tympanum was decorated by Hadrian or Antoninus Pius, who restored the building, and whether it referred to the decor of the original Agrippa's Pantheon. The purpose of Agrippa's Pantheon still raises a lot of controversies. Some theories suggest that it was a civic building and wasn't any temple at all. It might have served as a throne room, judicial basilica, or even as a senate house. It's likely that Augustus and his right-hand man Agrippa planned to build a new extrapomeral meeting place for the Senate so that military and pro-magistrates who couldn't cross into the city could attend the meetings. Traditionally, Campus Martius was such an extrapomeral meeting site. The Curia Julia, or the Curia of Pompey, which was also located on the Campus Martius, had the status of templum, which was a requirement for the Senate to conduct activities there. Statues of the gods were present there in connection with sessions of the Senate, during which ritual offerings were made, for example, in Curia Julia to the goddess Victoria. Was Agrippa's Pantheon to be the new seat of the Senate in the new Rome under Augustus? Its spectacular interior would be perfect. The statues of Caesar in the Pantheon, Augustus and Agrippa in front of the building, as well as the aforementioned eagle on the tympanum, emblem of Augustus, symbolize the new times of the Principate and the Roman Empire. So, as you can see, there are again more questions than answers. One thing is certain, it was Hadrian with his dome that gave the Pantheon immortal fame long after its original purpose was lost. Near the Pantheon, we encounter the remains of another great temple of the Campus Martius, the Temple of Hadrian, or Hadrianeum, dedicated to the deified Emperor Hadrian, erected by his adopted son, the Emperor Antoninus Pius, in 145 AD. The building had the form of a classical Greek temple surrounded by a Corinthian colonnade. Sadly, only one 15-meter high wall with 11 columns has been preserved, incorporated into the papal palace in the 17th century. Today, it adorns the Roman Stock Exchange building. Clearly, the Roman capricious winter weather doesn't want us to continue our journey, so we must take a short break. Stay with me to see the oldest forum in Rome, and in the meanwhile, I've got to pay a tribute to Oceanus. Hey, when in Rome. We're heading now south to the bank of the Tiber River to the oldest forum in Rome, the Forum Boarium. Already in the 6th century BC, cattle were traded here, hence the name Forum Boarium, Bull Market. It was once Portus Tiberinus, one of the main ports of Rome on the Tiber. Besides its commercial character, it was a place where the first gladiator fight in 264 BC took place. It was also a religious center, hence two, although quite small but picturesque, ancient temples still stand. The Temple of Portunus. The original temple dates back to the 3rd or even 4th century BC, but it was reconstructed in the 1st century BC, one of the best preserved Roman temples dedicated to Portunus, the patron deity of ports and bridges. Built of local tuff, but 8-meter high columns and architraves were made of travertine, as at that time marble wasn't yet widespread in Roman sacral architecture. It's almost 11 meters wide and a little over 19 meters long. We don't know exactly when the temple was built, only the style allows us to determine its age. The Ionic order dominated Roman architecture in the 2nd century BC, and the Corinthian order was spread in Roman sacral architecture only in the 1st century BC. A round temple dedicated to Hercules Victor, probably founded by Scipio Aemilianus around 140 BC, rebuilt by Augustus in 16 BC. According to the myth, Hercules, after completing one of the 12 labors, was supposed to graze Gerion's cattle here, which he'd stolen from the mythical island of Erythea. As early as the 15th century, the temple was wrongly attributed to the goddess Vesta due to its round shape. Made of marble on a tough foundation, it was given the form of a tholos surrounded by 20 Corinthian columns measuring 8 meters in height. In the 12th century, the conical roof replaced the original dome when the temple was adapted to the Church of Saint Stephen. There was a twin, slightly larger temple of Hercules nearby, but it was destroyed in the 15th century. Fortunately, the iconic statue made of bronze has survived. Opposite the Forum Boarium, in the portico of the Church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, stands the famous La Bocca della Verita, the truth detector, an ancient marble drain cover with an image of a Titan Oceanus. According to quite a controversial theory, it might have been originally located not in the nearby Temple of Hercules, but in the Pantheon. And finally, let's take a look at my favorite Byzantine church in Rome, the Church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and leave a comment to continue our journey through ancient sites. In the meantime, check out my other videos from Egypt, Greece and Turkey. And if you'd like to support my project, join my Patreon community. Link in the description. And see you on another ancient site.